Hi, everyone. My name is Fernando Caralt. I am an advanced research engineer at 3M. So that's a fancy word for saying research and development. So R&D is what you'll hear in short. And I study mechanical engineering, and in my group, it's a lot of trial and error, testing new things. So in R&D, you test a lot of new things and a lot of the products that are going to go on later, right? So that's what I do. And actually, I've been doing this for 2 years now. So I graduated recently. It's been two fun years at 3M over in Minnesota. All right. So what I'd like to do in my free time, actually, I'm originally from Spain. So I grew up there until I was 13. So soccer is a big thing over there. So that's what I've done growing up. And that's what I try to do every now and then. So a lot of you might be wondering, where do you go to college? What do you study? And that's one of the questions I really had coming to the end of my high school. And for those of you looking into STEM, you're usually good at science, like math, right? So engineering just made sense. And that's where I was at as well. And I really enjoyed, I remember the way I chose my major originally was biomedical engineering. And as I saw a cool video, the researcher is called Hugh Herr, and he works on prosthetics. And I saw a video of how he gave a ballerina a prosthetic and they were dancing. It's a really amazing story. I was like, oh, that's cool. That's really what I want to do. And then, because you have to choose a major a lot of times, I went into Georgia Tech. That's where I ended up going for STEM. One semester into biomedical, I was like, that's not for me. Biomedical is not what I want to do. It's way too much chemistry. So I switched to mechanical. And I'm just telling you this for really, you don't need to have a really good reason or kind of what you want to do. But in college, the first year of college just really doesn't matter what major you've done. If you're in STEM, you're going to be able to switch easily. So don't stress over too much, whether it's mechanical or it's chemical, aerospace. If you think you like an area, going there in the first year of college, you'll learn a lot. So I switched to mechanical after a semester and haven't looked back. And it gave me kind of a really broad knowledge, which is what I was looking for. And tinkering and building, that's something I enjoyed as well, is why I decided to do mechanical. And then through college, you get a lot of opportunities to explore things you might like or you might not. And I tell you, really try to take advantage of any internship opportunities you might find. I started, my first internship was in manufacturing. I was actually working in Triscuits manufacturing plants. So if you've ever had Triscuits, they've only got one in the US. So that's where I was at. And it was interesting. It was fun working in food manufacturing. And it taught me that I really don't want to work in manufacturing at all. I saw it and I was like, this is not for me. But it's one of those experiences you're not going to get unless you try it out. So it's always good to jump in, try it out, see if it works, and you can always try new things. Then I had another internship. It was in biomedical devices with Johnson & Johnson. And that was more what I was looking for, a little more design, more entertaining for me. And then I actually interned for 3M a couple times in my master's, and that's how I ended up at the job I'm at today. But feel free to explore. Don't be afraid to choose a major, go for it. And if you change at the end of the first year, a lot of people do that in college, a lot of people. So don't be afraid to choose one and go with it. When I was in college, and you'll probably see a lot of these programs are really common. There's a BS MS program where you start and they give you the option to do a master's at the end for an extra year or something. And just be on the lookout at not everyone's aware of these things when you come into college. So just something good to know to ask your counselor. And that's what I did when I went into Georgia Tech and decided to get a master's in mechanical engineering. And you add a couple of years or a year, that depends on your program. And actually ended up getting a fellowship that allowed me to partner with a company that was sponsoring me. And that company for me was 3M. And the fellowship's called the GEM Fellowship. And I was able to intern twice with 3M through this. And first, I was in manufacturing technology. I was working with robots and lasers and really loved it, really fun. And then I wanted to try something else for my second internship, because again, you get 2 internships. And I ended up in the group I'm at today. So it was a more exploratory, again, the research and development group. I got to program and code, which I hadn't done a lot of in college. So it was fun to try out. And at the end of that summer, they liked what I did. So they had an opening and that's how I ended up here. So a lot of times that's the opening from an internship to a full-time role. That's how you'll get those. So my projects range from really specific to working on a product to technology development, right? Something that might be 5-10 years out. So when it's working on a product, I'll be working with other engineers and trying to figure out whether it's designing a new product or seeing if it's going to work. Is this manufacturable? So in part of my role, I was looking a lot into additive manufacturing. So that's just a fancy way of saying 3D printing. And a lot of people out there were trying to 3D print either face masks, respirators, 3M. I'm sure you've seen the brand for the N95s, if you heard of that term, or even some of the kind of fancier looking ones with face shield and whatnot. So these are actually very well engineered to block out things. And people just thought, well, can we print these? There's not enough. So I was looking at, well, is there a way you can actually print these? Are these going to be safe? So for working for this project, I was looking at initially, since my focus earlier on was in additive manufacturing, I gravitated towards this myself and started looking into it. And then the way to verify some of these things was to connect with the people that actually make the face respirators at 3M and talk to them about it. Is it something we can explore? Is this something that's interesting? Should we evaluate this? So after a while, we looked at it and basically it was the materials are not going to be filtering enough. A lot of air is going to go through. So there really wasn't any way for us to, one, make a safe respirator, and two, make it in large enough quantities for everyone. So you might be wondering, how do you use all the stuff you're learning, whether it's in high school or maybe your early years in college, and how's it going to help you now when you're working? And now what I've got to say that I value the most is really, maybe it's not the memorization of a lot of things, it's understanding the fundamentals. So talking about the first principles when you look at the science and going down to the basics and understanding how to make the connections, right? Rather than like memorizing all these things, because you can look it up real quick. But if you understand the basic fundamentals of how things work, whether it's how to do research or how to problem solve, what are some of the questions you should be asking? I think that's been the most valuable for me. And really at the end of the day, when you come into a job, there's a lot of things you're not going to know. And really what you have to rely on is that skill set you have of how to solve these problems, how to learn. So learning how to learn is very important. So I think you get a lot of practice through that in your high school classes, in your science, your math. So getting that skill set of learning how to learn is very important, and just working on that throughout time is really going to help you. When I do go to career fairs, and it's something I got told as a freshman, when you're in college, you're usually applying for an internship, maybe your sophomore, your junior year, and everyone's going to ask you for experience, but you're a career fair trying to find experience, right? So that's a loop that you have to get out of somehow. And the best way, and what I tell most people is, again, find the club or find research that you could do. And really that's going to pad your resume, per se, to give you an internship, because otherwise it's very difficult. So that's something I wish someone would have told me early in college, because it does make a difference. So one final piece of advice that I have is really don't be afraid to explore. If you get to college or your last year and there's a new class maybe you don't know anything about, or there's a club that builds the racing cars, a lot of the college experience is going to come from those things as opposed to the classes. So really make sure you explored. You want to do research, find the professor, or you want to explore a new topic. I think exploring and being curious is really where you get a lot of your learning. So don't be afraid to try new things. Even if your friends are not trying, you'll meet new friends, right? So go out and find that passion. There's no way you can find it unless you try new things.